that I leave behind a strong judiciary, a professional and enthusiastic corps of judges and judicial officers, as well as staff who are deeply committed to the administration of justice, and an increasingly enlightened public whose confidence in and the demand for our services grows by the day. I urge you, fellow Kenyans, to...
Right. The former Chief Justice, the retired Chief Justice David Maraga, on his last day at the steps of the Supreme Court as he addressed the Kenyans and bidding them goodbye. But of course, with so much to look at, even as we wait for the succession of him. And I want to begin with the lawyer in the House, that is Dunstan Omari. I don't know whether you're conflicted because recently you have represented CJ in some court case, but all the same, you're an advocate of the High Court. But when you look at the tenure of CJ Maraga, but also at length the 18 years that he was on the bench, what do you think? What will you remember him for?
Thank you, Sam. I've got to declare the conflict very fast that the CJ is one among my prominent clients. I did defend him. Talked about the attacks. I wouldn't want to talk directly about that case. Everybody knows about it. But I will say this. One, under the CJ, several milestones in the judicial development occurred. One of them is that the height of independence of judicial officers, we saw it achieve a certain crescendo, which is good. Number two, we saw the boldness of the Supreme Court to nullify a presidential election. Third, we have seen infrastructural development in terms of the virtual and online court sessions. We have also seen the development of physical structures across board. We have also seen the evolution in the judiciary where now almost 95% of all the counties have a high court station or a high court sub-registry, which is good. We have seen the magistrates being devolved downwards to every sub-county. We have a magistrate there. So in terms of that, we achieved. But also there are challenges that the CJ has left behind. One of the challenges is that there seems to be a bad blood between the executive, the legislature, combined against the judiciary, in the sense that the judiciary was seen as a Maraga baby, a personal property of Maraga. And therefore, the reduction of the budget, the refusal for the president to appoint the judges was seen as an attack directly to the CJ. My take as an advocate is that we have seen a lot of problems in this country. Some, today, by virtue of failure to appoint judges, I'll tell you for free, the Court of Appeal in Kisumu, the Court of Appeal in Malindi, all of them and the Court of Appeal in Nyeri were closed. Now they are in Nairobi here. We have not more than 14 judges of the Court of Appeal. How does that impact on the economy of this nation? Billions of money are not being released to the economy. Commercial courts, Milimani Commercial Court, High Court, is billions of money are lying and without any determination.
Right.
So my take is that I hope that if the president had an issue with David Maraga Kinani, not as the CJ, we hope by today or tomorrow, those judges will be appointed. Let me also come to one issue. How are we going to have the succession that is coming for the CJ? We have a deputy CJ who has come in as an active CJ. Are we going to have a smooth transition? I pray for Kenyans that let us stand firm to have a CJ. Remember, the two arms of government, the executive and leave the civil service, the executive and the legislature serve only for 5 years. But the judiciary is recruited up to 70 years for the judges and 60 years for the magistrates. We hope, as the Chief Justice said, to avert any problems in 2022.
Okay.
Let the judiciary stand firm, and that's the only beacon for us to go forward. But I'm urging every Kenyan to keep the government on its toes.
All right, you said that Kenya should keep the government on its toes, but the CJ said that the judiciary could actually be the sole savior for Kenyans. But let's listen to a compilation of voices of one CJ Maraga as well as the president on the rough path that they walked since October 2016.
Nafikiri kwa sababu ya hizo nguo wanavaa wanaona Wakenya wengine ni wajinga. We have a problem with our judiciary, but regardless, we respect, but we shall revisit.
Other than the Supreme Court, the rest of the courts are operating at about 50%.
Courts are the same ones. When we propose certain tax measures, you are the first ones to say injunction. Hiyo isikuja. Sasa pesa hii itatoka wapi? Alafu, the same mouth, nataka pesa. Sasa itatoka wapi jameni? Wewe umefunga, alafu unasema unataka.
The CJ is not accorded the respect due to his office in quite a number of state functions. CSS and PSS are cleared to enter State House before the CJ. The CJ has got to wait.
So when you look at this, of course, Honorable Mweke, many people will remember especially that voice of the president after his election was nullified, him saying that we shall revisit, and many people say that what we've seen in the second term of the president and the relationship with the judiciary is out of that. How much of that is true, and might we be losing something? Because despite Omari's clamor here that the 14 judges should be appointed, there's been voices saying that maybe there are some integrity questions. How best or how better can the executive and the judiciary deal with their matters moving forward after Maraga?
Yeah. First, let me just start by saying that our judicial system is extremely important in this country. The rule of law is what ensures if your country is stable or not. Rule of law affects every single mwananchi in this country of ours. When you feel like you've been treated unfairly by anybody, somewhere that you run where you should feel safe, where you should feel that your interests have been taken care of, is the judiciary. And anywhere around the world, once you have a broken system in where the rule of law is abused, that country can never be successful. Because all countries in the world are anchored on the rule of law. So, be as it may, the judicial is one of our most important institutions, and the Constitution again says that it should be independent. I've seen the clip of our president saying that we have a problem in our judiciary. And, you know, subject to his opinion, that is fine. But my question would be, what if that ruling for the presidential election had not been nullified? Yeah? 2017 election. What if that ruling had said that they upheld the election and not nullified it? Would the president have made the same remarks, that we have a problem in the judiciary? So I just think in my own personal way, maybe he said that because the election was nullified and it was not in his favor. So if you go to court today and you lose a court case, does that mean that there's a problem in the judiciary? I mean, I think that's something that we can debate until the cows come home. But one thing that I really admire the Chief Justice for is that he stood his ground. He protected the Constitution, the former Chief Justice, and more than ever, to the words of the former US President, the 26th US President, Theodore Roosevelt, he said, patriotism is standing with the country, not standing with the president. And that's something that we need to learn here in Kenya. That if we say something that is not the view of the president, like Irungu Kangata said, yeah, it doesn't mean that he's unpatriotic. Because patriotism means standing with the country, not standing with the president. And as soon as we separate those two, then we're going to have a way more progressive country. So I think he's been steadfast about the judiciary being starved of funds, I think that was kind of unfair. We had, again, the president say, pesa itatoka wapi. But if you look at, again, the bigger picture, judiciary's budget is a fraction, probably even just 10% a year on what we are going to spend on BBI. So are you telling me that you're willing to spend 15 or 21 billion, whatever it is, on BBI, where only 29% of the people want BBI, and then you starve the judiciary of funds where everybody, every Kenyan citizen relies on the judiciary for their livelihood, and you starve them saying there's no money? I think there's a problem in priority there. So I think if we can be progressive, have judiciary get the budgets that they need so that we can have a stable country and people can be able to live knowing that they have justice, and then stop the interference of the executive into the judiciary and have it as independent as our constitution envisioned.
DG Mweke, your prescription would appear to be targeted at the executive, but I asked the question, what should the next CJ do to improve the relationship between the executive and the judiciary so that we are not finding ourselves in a similar situation?
Life is about relationships, yeah? But you have to separate having a relationship with somebody and doing your job. And that's why some people say, when they're making decisions, it's not personal, it's business. It's not that I'm against you, I'm just doing my job. Now, you can see, and I alluded this earlier, Sam, you can see the CJ got castigated because he did his job. He was brought, as per the Constitution, a presidential election, a petition. He looked at it, merits and demerits.
Alongside other judges,
yes,
of course.
And he nullified it. Then you have to remember that we had a second election. And even that second election, there was an election petition on the second election of October 26th. But the judiciary again looked at the merits and demerits and upheld that election. Same judges, 2 months later, yeah, which showed that they just looked at what they're supposed to look at, evidence, and made a ruling. He did his job. Now, the Constitution, again, on the dissolve Bunge thing, the Constitution was very clear, and it said Parliament has a time frame to implement laws as per Constitution 2010. And if they don't meet that time frame, you extend it by 1 year, which they did for the two-thirds gender rule.
Right.
And after that 1 year, if you have still not passed the law that you're supposed to pass, the punishment was supposed to be on Parliament for not doing their job. So they said the Chief Justice can write to the President and advise the President to dissolve Parliament. But then again, you castigated him and you say, you have told the President to dissolve Parliament, so you have a bad relationship with the President. I beg to differ. I just think I am doing my job. He did his job.
Okay, DG Mweke, let's listen to the Chief Justice as he spoke about politicians and the judicial officers on really who has power or not.
I have heard sometimes politicians say that they are better off because they are elected. I want to tell you that according to our constitutional architecture, they have no better power than what you have. It is the people of Kenya who gave you the judicial authority to exercise it for their own good. I want to urge that you don't let the people of Kenya down.
All right, so that is the CJ Maraga. And Speaker, so listen to that. Of course, there's always that struggle. I don't know how it happens that Parliament and the executive do not fight as much, especially through their heads. I don't know whether it's because they're appointed by the majority party when you have to look at the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Speaker of the Senate. But how do we move forward? Because obviously the three institutions exist so that they can check each other when it comes to power. How do we move on without really suffering the pains and the opinions of the holders of these offices in the coming days, and especially from the political class?
Well, first of all, just to wish CJ Maraga well, and yes, to say that, yeah, there were ups and downs, and it was because of that political will. I think, for me, one of the things that we need to look at and to agree, first of all, these are three arms of government. Let us not try and think you can work in isolation. Let us not try and imagine, because Parliament will make the laws. If these laws are not good, they will have to come to you. At one point, you'll have to sit down, the Speaker of Parliament and the CJ, and talk about it for the interest of the public. Because in the end of the day, whatever you cook here comes and either affects now the majority who are the citizens. If it is the executive will have to work with Parliament for the country to move. So I am not saying you come in and now you are strangled and your powers are gone. I am saying there must be a way of these three arms for Kenya, in fact, to move to the future. In fact, to move to all these crises we are talking about. They must work together. Because one of the things that you find where there was a lot of challenges, and it is not because of CJ Maraga, because these are things that go in different courts. And every judge has a right to look at an issue and judge according to what he or she realizes, this is how I'm going to bring my judgment. But you realize it became a time where government, most of these projects, why we are also in this crisis of all these loans and projects that government had, is we tied them so much in court. So you find a project that was supposed to start 1 year has been in court for 2-3 years. 2-3 years, you're supposed to start paying the loan, but you never did this project. So some of the challenges both sides are facing is that government felt you have strangled us on the projects. You have made us, we are going to go to pay loans, while here in court, you realize you're not seeing the danger. And therefore, this is something also Parliament and the judiciary should sit and talk. How long do you take when you have a case that is of a project of such an amount that needs to be done, and this amount is also on a loan? It is something they will have to really rethink at. And then
So who bears that responsibility? Because the CJ on several occasions, including one press conference he made at the steps of Supreme Court, said that he had tried to get audience with the president. It was not possible. He was being ignored. Who takes that responsibility? Is it the big brother?
Well, I would say you tried to get the appointment. You are the CJ of our country. I will not say I put it on the president, but you see, there are those who are supposed to, I mean, honestly, and that is what I was saying, sometimes our handlers and those who take care of everything that works around every senior person, not just the president. You'll find also, if you want to see a governor, maybe those who are there, the same way, the speaker, the same. And I always plead and say, these are public offices. I think if you put in a very good way of how, once in a while you need to know, I'll meet the CJ. It does not even need to be way. It is a way of
Speaker,
just saying,
I see what you're doing there, but...
You want to tell me I'm running out? I'm not running away from the president, not refusing to meet the CJ. I'm just saying, even those who prepare his diary, surely you must agree that once, even if it's once in a month, he has to sit down with the CJ. It does not need to be a thing of an appointment. It needs to be within the program of the president, that at least so that you understand these are the key cases of your government in court.
But it appears it's not. Speaker, let me just raise this question.
That's what I'm saying. That relationship has never been there.
We know the head of the executive is one President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yes.
The head of the judiciary until a month ago, when DCJ started acting, was David Maraga. The head of the National Assembly was Justin Muturi, and Ken Lusaka, the Senate. Are you telling me that for all these 4 men to meet, they cannot meet until their handlers agree? No,
I'm not saying. That's why I'm saying, and I want to repeat some. I have said, you've asked going forward, I've said I would wish that there's just a program that says, on this day is the day of the president to meet either the 4 together or to meet the 3 together, because this is where all the laws are being done. I would wish that would be that proposal. Okay. But for now, it seems you have to get an appointment. You know, it is only in Kenya. I want to be honest now to my government. You go everywhere in the world, every person, senior, most, will tell you it is only in Kenya where you cannot come from somewhere with very critical information and you can't see the president. Why? Because our handlers decide how to eat. I am sorry, I will tell them.
Okay.
And the other challenge we always face is that, let me give you an example, Sam.
Yes, quickly.
You have an investor who is coming in. They will tell him when he's still abroad, you're coming to see the president. When he arrives in Kenya, he will be hoovered in these hotels. In the end, he won't even see the CS. He will see a director. But he had a very critical investment that would have built Kenya to another level. He goes back very disappointed. Then he lands where? In Zambia, where, for example, in a few hours, he's able to meet the president in Zambia and is able to give them a project that would have been a Kenyan project. I will not say the names of those companies, but they have been there. They have suffered. This is the same. So it is the same, and I pray going forward that we shall have a way that we will not have the CJ standing on the stairs and telling Kenyans, I cannot see the president. Honestly, it's not right.
All right, I hear you, Speaker. And Jacob Abere on Twitter is saying that the road ahead is going to be full of potholes and terrain, but as advised, it's time the judiciary to stand tall and be counted, or they will fall of the executive sword of governance. We take a short break. When we return, we continue to focus on the legacy of CJ Maraga as we focus into the future on how the succession will be taken through.